Hello, and welcome to the Gameplay Cast review for the third-person shooter hack and slash Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. Ho! I think Christmas has come early for 40k fans, and I'm all in on this. Developed by Saber Interactive and published by Focus Entertainment, Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 continues the story of Demetrian Titus, who was imprisoned by Inquisitor Thrax at the conclusion of the first game. A link to my review of said game will be popping up on the screen now. Titus was cleared of any heresy and released when Thrax himself was executed for heresy. Heresy being fairly common in the grim dark of the far future. Titus then joined the Death Watch as a Black Shield in a kind of self-imposed repentance. This is where the game prologue picks up, with Titus and his squad of Death Watch attempting to launch a virus bomb into the stratosphere of the planet Kadaku to delay a Tyranid invasion. Following the loss of his full squad and the successful deployment of the virus bomb, Titus is mortally wounded by a Carnifex, but is rescued by the Ultramarines. To save his life, he is then upgraded to Primaris and reinstated as an Ultramarine Lieutenant by Chapter Master Marnius Calgar. He is also instructed not to reveal the nature of how he ended up as a Black Shield in the Death Watch. From here, Titus and his squad of Marines take part in missions to repel the Tyranid assault on the system, with all not being as it seems. It's been a long 13-year wait since the original Space Marine game, with few notably great 40k games in the void. So was it worth the wait? Are Saber Interactive in the service of the arch traitor? Or are they loyal servants of the Emperor? Well, the Golden Throne can breathe a sigh of relief, as thankfully it's definitely a case of the latter. So behold, ye loyal servants of the Emperor, beloved by all, I bid you keep watching to hear my justification, as well as get Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2's final score out of 10. The world details was something of a weak spot in the original, but given the limitations of the day, it was forgivable. With modern day computing power, there's no excuse for generic backdrops and Spartan sets. And straight out the blocks, the visuals hit you like a charged power fist. They didn't just deliver on this front, they blew it into orbit. The draw distance and the scale of activity is superb, possibly one of the best examples I've seen in a game. Playing this game has made me realise how important this stuff is for making the game world feel alive, and that helps with the immersion and atmosphere, no end. The 40k nerd in me thoroughly enjoyed seeing the inner workings of a Space Marine battle barge. All the set dressing and battle scenes in and around the facilities in Hive City is truly awesome. From the priests of the Mechanicus repairing dreadnoughts aboard ship, to motivational speeches delivered by Cadian guardsmen getting ready for battle. It really is great. Getting into the gameplay nuts and bolts, the game is much the same as the first game, with the addition of a much needed counter mechanic and the awesome follow-up pistol execution shot. Though this has come at a price, as we can now only carry 2 weapons instead of the previous 4, and we've lost the interrupt/stun attack, which I personally kinda miss, but I think this is due to the additional charge attack from sprinting and then hitting melee, and the heavy attack where you hold the melee button down to do a much higher impact blow. The gore explosion you get from an overhead charge smash with the Thunderhammer is perfection. The gunplay is still solid with the standard mix of 40k weaponry, ranging from plasma incinerators to melters, las snipers, and every bolter variant imaginable. It's not the most refined, and they still fail to add a Gears of War style reload mechanic, which is such a gaping miss in the gameplay, it's unreal. But it still feels very 40k, and watching enemies explode under hails of bolter shots never really gets old. Moreover, I found that there is still plenty of scope in a lot of areas to fight at whatever range you prefer, so no complaints here other than the aforementioned missing reload mechanic, and I'd still like to carry 4 weapons. Hey, I was a scout. Be prepared is a motto I take seriously. Plus, it never hurts to have more weapons. I found the game to be challenging enough on my playthrough on veteran difficulty. The bad guys managed to take me out a fair few times, as did some of the bosses, which I subsequently managed to overcome before getting too frustrated. Next up, I'll be trying my hand at the Angel of Death difficulty. The Emperor protects. I hope. I think the biggest leap forward apart from the sublime visuals is the multiplayer. It's such an awesome thing to bring back a proper squad-based game. I really can't state this enough. It's something I used to do with my friends all the time, but haven't really bothered since we finished our last playthrough of the Master Chief Collection and Gears 4. Having 2 other human squad mates definitely takes the gameplay up to the next level. It's much more fun, and it's how the campaign should be played. Equally, the armor and weapon customization is epic. Sorry Titus, but I switched out for a Dark Angel at my very first opportunity. For the Lion. I just wish they'd added some couch co-op. It's crazy we live in an age of 70-inch TVs, and not a single modern shooter offers co-op anymore.
What? is the deal?
Make it make sense. Forgive me, brothers, I digress. Another big step forward is the squad interplay and the story narrative and drama. It's fairly blunt force, don't get me wrong, it's not Shakespeare, but you can see the developer put time and effort into creating some inter-squad conflict and decent story narrative. Being completely honest, when I saw the squad was a bunch of diverse men, given today's entertainment sphere, I kinda sighed. Side note, I am aware that the 500 worlds are more diverse, so it's not an issue with the lore, more that this kind of thing has become a warning signal in entertainment. So much so that when a diverse group is actually good, it's a rarity and a surprise nowadays. But Sergeant Gadriel and Brother Charon grew on me as the story progressed, and by the end, I liked the group's dynamic and how their relationships developed. Adding this into the basic but entertaining story arc gives a nice layer of polish that keeps you immersed and invested in the characters and the story. Equally, while not the longest campaign, it's a similar length to the first game, I found that it built up to the crescendo nicely, and then more importantly, stuck the landing, leaving me with a pretty satisfied experience, a smile on my face, and a lot of future replayability.
It is a gift.
Forgive me for this act of heresy. I think repetition of enemies is one of the first critiques that comes to mind. It's pretty lore accurate, but you seem to fight against the same type of enemies consistently. Don't get me wrong, this certainly isn't game breaking, and the game evolves as you play in that there is a new faction introduced at about the halfway point, but they again fall into the habit of reusing the same core units. I think the main issue is probably less the units and more the fact that the melee gameplay isn't quite as tight as it could have been. Titus seems to only have a set number of executions, plus one for each melee weapon. Again, they all look cool, but a few more animations and some more weapon-specific executions would have elevated the hack and slash gameplay, as well as distracted from the enemy reuse by making each combat potentially stand apart a bit more. In the same vein, the melee isn't as tight as I think it could have been. It's going in the right direction with the new counter mechanic, but I'd have liked a few more combo options. Like the added shot after knocking or countering an opponent was great, but could we have integrated a few more moves and things? For me personally, I think I said this in my review for Space Marine 1, but a combo system that unlocked some ground pounds or some special instant executions, almost lifted straight out of the Batman Arkham games, would work a treat. And I think this is where they were going, but stopped short of making melee something truly special. Again, it's certainly good fun and more refined than the first game, but with a bit more flair and innovation, it could maybe have been something more. I can't do the critiques and not mention the level design taken straight out of the original game. What I mean here is that you can pretty much see the loading screens, as they are either always an interactive piece of terrain that needs moving, a door that needs opening, or an elevator of some description. The problem I think this illustrates is that as a gamer, you always know you are on the right path, because there is only one path to really follow. There are a few bigger areas with some alternative approaches, but nothing like the open level design of games like Halo 3. There isn't any vehicle specific sections either. I think this very funneled gameplay is a bit safe in a 2024 game. All it would have taken to elevate the campaign was a few more open spaces and bigger areas that would give the player some clear choices, but sadly, you're stuck on rails the whole time. Perhaps this is a case of the classic trade-off we used to see between multiplayer and campaign. There's also a bit of a case for the game needing a touch more variety to break up some of the level grind. And in my final act of disgusting heresy, I'll comment on the servers and installation controversy that I've seen some discourse over online. In my experience, the game ran fine on early access, but I mainly put the time into smashing out the campaign. However, I will say that any game with servers seems to have issues at launch these days, so while it's not right, it's kind of expected. Though if anyone paid for early access and then genuinely couldn't get on, I would hope the devs would do something. Equally, the whole installing the Epic Store or whatever is not something that overly worries me, and it doesn't impact my feelings on the game at all. This isn't a case of Helldivers 2 trying to force you to give Sony your biometric data and ID, so not really that much of a big deal in my opinion. Even as a Son of the Lion, forced to play as an Ultramarine, I really enjoyed this game. The campaign co-op was a real boom, the world building, backdrops, the kind of lived-in, alive quality the game has is unparalleled for 40k games. Seeing the loading deck of an Astartes battle barge as Thunderhawks land and depart, watching Acadian advance in the background of your mission is just awesome. It's clear to me that this game was made by real 40k fans with love and attention to every little detail. It shows, and I really appreciate it. Not to go on a 40k rant, but to go on a 40k rant. GW could and should learn something from this. What the fans want is this. Proper masculine Space Marines kicking ass and taking names. But I'm not holding my breath. The agents of the archenemy are in the walls in that place, and once Nurgle's rot takes hold, it's hard to cure. Brace yourselves for more fem stories and lore exterminatus. I shall speak no more in this matter. I am here to review Space Marine 2, not lament GW's folly. And when something goes right, I shall duly award kudos. And this definitely went right. I also think it's important to note that you definitely don't need to be any kind of hardcore 40k fan to enjoy this game. It's a brutal gore fest similar to Gears of War, so if you like that game, you will undoubtedly like this one. And if I remember correctly, the original game had a load of devs from the original Gears working on it, which kind of explains the similarities. Switching my 40k fan cap and putting my reviewer cap on, I think the art of a truly great shooter comes down to 3 elements. Solid gameplay mechanics that are repeatable and fun, gameplay variety, this being a mix of different games and missions, things like the AC-130 and sniper missions in COD, or the open world vehicle missions in Halo, all brought together with an intriguing character-driven story arc where they unite to fight and overcome a challenge. Now I'll definitely give a tick in the box for the core game mechanics, despite them not being as responsive or as refined as I think they could have been, and I'm also willing to put a tick in the box for the story and characters. It may be basic, but so are baked beans, and why change a classic, right? We got what was promised on the tin here. However, I do think the level design has suffered in that it doesn't do enough to hide the railed nature of the game. We do have the classic jump pack missions and some similar variety as was in the original, but that's just it. The level design and additional mechanics didn't get the overhaul that the visuals and multiplayer aspects did. As such, I think the game struggles to cross that line in the sand that is the difference between a very good game and a truly great game. Nonetheless, the Emperor's judgment has been passed, and the result? A remarkable 9 out of 10. All in all, I think the safe level design and low gameplay variety is more than compensated for with the addition of the character customization options, the squad co-op, and the competitive multiplayer. They have also definitely refined the melee combat, even if it isn't as far as I would have ideally liked. Ultimately, what gets it over the line for me, and why this game also gets the Gameplay Cast seal of approval, is firstly, for reviving squad-based multiplayer / co-op games. This is what got me into gaming and what made the original Halo one of my all-time favourite games. Fighting through the game alongside your friends was always a good time, and this is a nod to the great days of gaming past. And secondly, because I love low accurate Warhammer 40k, and I'm biased in that regard. There's blood, guts, gore, and pure unadulterated, badass, old-fashioned heroism. Guys want to be Space Marines, and girls want to be with Space Marines. This game is great, and while I definitely feel individual elements could have been further refined, the product of the whole is greater than the sum of the individual parts, and that is what gets it into the great game category. That said, I can totally understand any non-40k fan thinking it's probably more like an 8 out of 10, and that would be a fair call. Whatever you think, overall it's a worthy game for all, but with room for improvement. Maybe we won't have to wait 13 years for Space Marine 3, and we might yet live to see that perfect Warhammer 40k Space Marine game. All that said, I'll be putting a lot of hours into this, and all things considered, Saber did a great job reviving this long lost title. Awesome work. That is all you get, and as always, f*** Erebus.